There were some upsets last night in races that are still a little bit too close to call this morning. Joining us with more is Pat Brady, the former chairman of the Illinois Republican Party and a former federal prosecutor. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good to be here.
Now, the race for Cook County State's attorney was still undecided as of last night. So what do you expect to eventually happen with that?
I think it's too much of a reach for Clayton Harris to catch up with Justice Burke. I think she'll end up winning. It'll take a couple days, but she's going to be the new state's attorney, I think.
And what do you think she needs to do in order to be effective in that role?
Do the opposite of Kim Foxx. Start prosecuting crime again. Fill the office back up with prosecutors. Get rid of that silly $300 retail or $1,000 retail theft threshold. Just get the office back to what it should be, which is the administrator of justice. Do it fairly. But, you know, there are a lot of victims in the last 8 years that haven't been represented, and I think she needs to do that. So return the office to representing victims and less about pushing a progressive political agenda.
Now, in your opinion, what would you say was maybe one of the biggest upsets last night?
I'm probably surprised. I thought that the mayor's referendum would do better. And you know, from my perspective, a bad night for CTU is a good night for Chicago. Some of this stuff, you know, I'm glad it was stopped.
And one of the things that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks really is the low voter turnout.
Yeah, it's horrible.
What do you think needs to change in order to get more people to come out and exercise the right to vote?
You know what? Part of the reason was the presidential race has already been decided, and you know, I remember in years past when that was hotly contested, a lot of people turn out. But remember, these are primaries are party processes, and not as many people identify as Democrats or Republicans anymore, so they're just not as motivated to turn out. But people need to engage because that 20% is pretty bad.
Now, we are going to have a rematch in the presidential race come November. So what do you think that each of those candidates needs to do in order to win?
Well, I've been pretty outspoken about this. I think Donald Trump, and I'm a lifelong Republican, is a threat to the country. And I think that people need to wake up and either vote for Biden or do something. But you cannot support a guy who's done what he's done, staging the insurrection, you know, the election denier stuff, the comments over the weekend about there's going to be a bloodbath if he loses. I mean, it's time to move on for Trump, from Trump. I'm going to vote for Biden. I did last time. I just think Trump is just such a threat to the country. I know that'll irritate a lot of my Republican friends and some of your viewers, but Trump's bad news.
Well, what about for Biden? What does he need to do in order to get more people to vote for him?
You know, that's a tough call. I mean, he gave a good State of the Union speech, at least showed some vibrance, but he's old, and he looks old and he acts old. But hopefully people focus on the threat to the democracy and less on Biden. Biden's not a great candidate. I mean, I think he's at 40% approval, but he needs to show the country he's up for the job.
Now, what do you think needs to happen in order for more people to actually vote come November? Do you think just because it's a presidential election, that'll just kind of make more people to come out?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of interest in this. I mean, people pay attention to the presidential race, and it's going to be a highly contested race. And, I mean, some critical issues are going to be on the ballot. So I think we'll get good turnout in the general election.
Well, Pat Brady, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yep.